Have you ever worked your guts out to the point where we're on a landscape job, to the point where you are beyond physical exhaustion? Now you are at the risk of getting sick, or you at the risk of physical injury. You could even be at the risk of a heart attack because you're working so many hours and you're so stressed out and you're spread so thin, and yet you're supposed to be growing in your success, not becoming more and more and more stressed out. It's after Christmas right now, right before New Year. It's beautiful weather. Clients are calling on proposals, and we're out here doing landscaping. This is a nice little treat. But I'm listening to this book right now called The Integrated Model of Consciousness by Ken Wilber, and this is really a huge part of the answer. I have these beautiful epiphanies that I want to share with you. So there's lines, levels, states, and stages of consciousness. I can't get too deep into that here, but even though there's a whole new level of consciousness where you can get to, where you say become more successful. Imagine a 10-speed bike where you're pedaling in first gear really fast, and you're just exhausted going nowhere. It's like putting a car in first gear and driving all the way to Florida at 7,000 RPM. The motor's going to blow up. The thing's going to break down. That's what we do. Okay? So we're running 1,000,000 miles per hour. So although to get to a new level of consciousness, which is shifting the car or the bike from first to second to third to fourth gear, to now where you're on the freeway doing 75 miles an hour and you're just relaxed and the car is just taking a walk at 70 miles per hour. Or pedaling and you got it now in 8th gear and you're just cruising. Because of these pathologies that we have, or fears from the past, or traumas, or things that have happened to us that have made us be stuck in survival mode, where the amygdala fires and cortisol dumps through the body, you get addicted to the neuropeptides in the brain that fire, that make you addicted to the struggle. This is like psychocybernetics, neuroplasticity, neuroscience. I talk about this stuff on my other channel called I Am Ability. Hear me out. There's something called a stable datum in your consciousness. The very same things that used to protect you, like holding onto a palm tree in a hurricane, because that was the only thing available at the time, are the very same things that are hurting us and holding our personal growth and development back from evolving. That's why when I recommend the books like Dr. Joe Dispenza's You Are the Placebo, and books like Dr. David R. Hawkins' Letting Go on audible.com, and you guys are hitting me up in the comments letting me know you're listening to this stuff. Here's the answer. If you stuck with me this long, here's the answer. In Malcolm Gladwell's book, The Tipping Point, he talks about a point where the people who get so upset, say in the corporate 9-to-5 world, they get so upset because they're not going anywhere in their life or in their career. They slam their papers down on their desk and they march into the office where the boss is working. They don't even care if he's on a phone call or what. And they're like, demand the attention. What's going on? And they say, you're moving me up in this company. I'm ready to move up to the next level. I want more pay, I want this position, XYZ, or I'm out of here right now. I quit, I'm gone. When you get to the point where you snap and you are no longer afraid of losing, that the pain of death is less painful, or let's simplify this. When the pain of changing becomes less painful than the pain of staying the same, you'll change. When you start facing what you previously, at this level of consciousness, because you're in a line of consciousness, at this level of consciousnness, the things that you perceive to be impossible for you, that you've built entire stories around, which are stable datums, stable datums is an entire neural network in your brain, mind-body connection, all the way from the levels from physical truth, to social truth, to genetic truth, to spiritual truth, to universal truth. There's a line that goes all the way through them, and it'll... Gosh, I'm getting too deep here. Basically, you have to die to self. There's a story, the Zen story of this Indian who went to the tropical... This is like a 2-hour long video, dude. Because what's happening for me right now is I'm pulling data from the 450 books that I've read, and there's a common thread that goes through all these books. And depending on what line of consciousness you're operating in, or wherever you're at in gross, subtle, or causal consciousness, it's the prism or the rose-colored glasses, the perception, the paradigm that you see this information through. So if you see yourself as a victim, you cannot be a victor. And sometimes the only way to see yourself as a victor, or somebody who's moving upward and onward, is you have to let go. And the only way you can let go of your current belief system is to face death. Not real death, but ego death. Okay, so when the Indian goes to the jungle and he captures a parrot, and he brings him home and he makes him his pet, he goes to the jungle 2 years later, and he says to his pet parrot, he goes, "Is there anything you want me to tell all your friends and family in the jungle when I return?" And the parrot sends a secret message, and when the Indian gets to the jungle, I know this sounds crazy, the other parrots say something. I don't know how this shit works, dude. Anyways, he gets back home to his parrot in the cage, and he says to the parrot, "Here's a message I have from your friends in the jungle." And all of a sudden, his parrot drops dead and dies in the bottom of the cage, and he's laying there dead. He said, "Oh my God, my parrot has died. My parrot has died." So he opens the cage, takes the parrot out, and sets him outside in the backyard on a pile of wood. All of a sudden, the parrot springs to life and flies up into the trees. And the Indian traveler says, "Oh my God, you tricked me, you tricked me. What is going on? Why did you trick me?" He says that, "My friends back in the jungle sent me a secret message and said, in order to escape your cage, you must die while you're alive. You must die to the flesh. You must die to your current belief system. You must die to your current self-limiting beliefs." And when I say die, it's because the stable datum in your consciousness is so tightly gripped around that thing. It's like, you ever see like the movies where the guy's hanging off a cliff, and like, or the cartoon where he's pulling his fingers? It's terrifying. It feels like you're going to die. That's why we have anxiety. That's why we're into our own self-hypnosis of the stories we tell ourselves about everything, that this little tiny thing's just going to be the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the end. We're going to lose everything. We're going to end up homeless, living in a dumpster. People who really suffer from depression and those type of thoughts is because your current reality is not matching the expectations of what you expect yourself, or wished and hoped and dreamed that you would have become by now at this point in your life, and you're not there yet. You're not there yet, and because you're not there yet, and you fight harder and harder and harder, and you just work yourself more and more and more to a hole of exhaustion. It's like quicksand. So then you become filled with anxiety, depression, apathy. You move lower and lower and lower down the vibrational scale of consciousness into that of fear, hopelessness, and apathy, which is the lowest. And the only way, like the anchors that are holding you down to the bottom of the sea, dragging you along, you know what that's like, is you have to start cutting those things. And those things, those anchors, aren't just anchors attached to ropes or chains. They're literally umbilical cords that are attached to your consciousness and to your life and to your organs, to different parts in your energy body, your chakras. They're attached to energy centers inside of you. They're feeding off you. You could call it incubus, succubus, you could call it demons, demonic energies, spirits, pathologies, whatever form of study you believe or pay attention to. these things are feeding off of you, and it can be in the form of codependent relationships, especially if you have a codependent relationship with your spouse, with your father, with your mother, with a brother or sister, if you have somebody who's pulling on you all the time. If you are a codependent person that's engineering drama so you can get your psychological neuropeptide, the drug, the hit, the addiction of the hit, and you're not even aware that you're doing that, you're treating other people like crap because you're living in a story. All these stories create more stories and more stories that keep breaking into different realities and exploding until your thought forms that it now become structures of consciousness that crystallize. And then, like the projection, the hologram, your consciousness is a projector, and it projects these, it pulls down from the spiritual field energetically, and then it broadcasts and manifests into consciousness. Paul in the Bible said that which is that which appears, that which is seen doth not come from that which appears. Okay, so when God spoke in Genesis, and when he spoke everything into existence, he said, let there be light, then that means everything